Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How We're the podcast from Roker Report. And if you are caught up with our recent podcasts, you will know who we picked fairly easily actually for our Player of the Year, and you will have heard us squabble over how we awarded our Young Player of the Year. And I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't caught up. I'm going to let you go back and listen to all that and disagree with us in your own time. But now we can move on to Goal of the Season, which I have to admit was an absolute nightmare to get down to a short list of 10. We've just been discussing this before we started recording that we could have went on and on and on with a free-for-all, but we did try and do a short list just to focus our time, or else we would have been here all day. We did get that list together in the end, and luckily we have 3 people who are willing to stick their necks out and be scrutinised once again for their opinions, because I've got a feeling this might be controversial. So first up, we have Martin Wanless with us. All right, mate?
Hi, mate. I think it's quite nice to be in a position where we've got a huge selection of good goals to pick from, isn't it? It's not always the case. So to have a short list of 10 and, really that slightly longer list could have been 15 or 20 goals very easily. I think we've been very lucky to see some great goals. Isidore could have had his own goal of the season competition, by the way. And I think he's only got 1 or 2 on the shortlist. So, hey, it's a good conversation to have, I think, isn't it?
That's it. Well, it's been ridiculous looking back at some of those goals. But just quickly, mate, because, on us, especially some of those early in the season, because we scored some belters early in the season that you completely forget about. And we've got a whole conversation about the ones we left off before we actually get going. But just quickly, Martin, on the young player and the player of the season, again, without trying to give away what we did, just in case people are catching up. I mean, who would have been your young player and player of the season?
Well, I haven't listened to those pods yet, and I wasn't on them.
Good.
So you're getting my opinion completely uninfluenced, shall we say. We've said, off the top of my head, player of the year, Luke O'Nien. Absolutely no question about it for me. Standout, consistent all the way through. And young player of the year, I would go for Eliza Mayenda.
Oh, I mean, talking about unbiased, you've been talking to Gav, but I don't want to.
Was that your pick?
I'm saying no, Martin. I just think you're the smartest bloke I've ever spoken to. Honestly.
I'd be worried if I was you, Johnny. I think these two are going to start ganging up on you during this podcast.
Well, he was easy influenced in Player of the Year was Gav, so I wouldn't be too concerned.
Well, I mean, and obviously, well, you've heard who else we've got with us. All right, Johnny, how's it going, mate?
Aye, not too bad, mate. Again, much like Martin said, it's lovely to be gathering to chat about such a collection of spectacular goals. It's one of them where you just don't get sick of talking about them, do you? So I chuffed to be here and can't wait to get our teeth into it.
Well, that's it. It's nice that you found time for little old Howie the podcast to come on and join us, mate. But actually, you did the Player of the Year. But just quickly, who was your young Player of the Year?
I find it tough to go against my ender. I know it's a lot of recency bias with, the Bristol City in the playoff.
What, with Gavin Martin saying it?
And Gavin Martin saying it, obviously, yeah. I just want to fit in with the cool lads on the call. That's what it is. But no, I think, my ender's development, big moments, big personality as well. I think he's starting to, put all the elements together and become really he's starting to look like the whole package in the making, isn't he? So, I think he deserve the credit and deserve a little accolade at the end of his season. So, he'd be my shout. Plus, Job won the championship one anyway, so we all know he's good. Let's give one to my ender, shall we?
That's it. And last but not least, you've already heard his gloating mush talking on this pod and agreeing with some of the decisions we made, or non-decisions we made, I suppose, on the other two pods. It's Gavin Henderson, all right, mate?
I'm even better now, having heard what the lads have had to say, mate. Yeah, feeling vindicated for my choice. Let's see how today goes, though. That relationship might sour based on the hints you've given about the picks we've all made. So, yeah. But yeah, good.
No, it's all good fun, isn't it? All good debate. Because there's no right answer, is there, to any of this? We're going to talk, but we're not saying we're right. We're not saying everyone else is wrong.
I am, Mike. I'm sorry, but I am.
The right answer for Player of the Season is Luke O'Nien. The right answer for young players, the lads of my ender. So we'll see what the right answer for the goal of the season is. I'll tell you in about 45 minutes.
Right, if that's the way it is, I know how this pod's going to go now. But Gav, Martin touched on it. I think the goals we've scored. I think it's been described as a few times, like choosing between your bends in terms of trying to get this shortlist together.
Oh, that was so tough. It was so tough. I had to be honest. I'm glad I watched the goal of the season video that the club put together, because I think what was the 14 on there, 15, and. To be honest, I hadn't forgotten about most of the goals, but sort of the recency bias could easily kick in when making this choice. And it's good to look back August, September, October of last year, which was absolutely ages ago now, and watch some of those goals and see just how good they were. But it was so tough. I can't imagine there'll be any Sunderland fans that if you said pick a top 5 would agree unanimously on a top 5. And as you said before, I think it's just nice to have this many goals to look at, because you can guarantee we don't have this many next season. So let's enjoy it.
Well, you never know. We might only score 5 goals, but they might all be worldies.
I just keep thinking of that season under Peter Reid when our top scorer had 4 in the Premier League, and what would a goal of the season competition look like that year?
Kevin Ball's header won that one, man. We had 2. Oh, did we have 3 players on 4?
Yeah, Craig Russell,
Paul Stewart,
yeah. There's not one more of a.
No, I think Craig Russell was definitely top scorer in the end, like league and cup, because he was telling us how he should have played more games because he was still scoring the goals. But that Kevin Ball, he flew from the halfway line in my memories. But absolutely brilliant goal. Excuse me. Just because we did ask social media, and thanks to Craig Chapman, our social media guru, who sent me some notes that we got back from social media. I'll just go through some of them before we talk about our shortlist and some of the goals we missed off, because some of them might be on here. We've got Joel Gradwell says Isidore versus Oxford, just a stupidly satisfying volley, he says. SFC Niall says quality-wise Mundle versus Preston or Isidore versus Coventry in the league. Alan Davis says aesthetically Mundle versus Preston, but Ballard's was huge. Don't think we win on pens. Ooh, okay, interesting. Michael Bowers says Mayenda at Coventry, Ballard at home to Coventry, and Watson at Wembley, all the late goals in the playoffs. Matty Oliver says Mayenda in the playoff final. Alex Bilton says Dan Ballard versus Coventry. Tilly Stevenson says, and Derek Mason and Scott Richardson all say Dennis Sirkin versus Coventry. Rory McGregor says Ballard or Watson in the playoffs. Rob Barber says Dan Neil at Watson is right up there. Oliver McIntosh says there's plenty of movement inside that box, which I think tells you everything. Simon West says Mayenda versus Bristol City in terms of pure quality, but Ballard or Watson in terms of importance. We'll come on to that in a second. John Salve says Mundle versus Preston. a technique and karma combination. Tanya says Mayenda versus Coventry. Akira says Brownies Thunder. I'm going to say CUNT because my lad listens to this podcast now. So I'm going to spell that out. Okay.
Don't swear like your dad, right?
Yes, exactly. If there's any young'uns listening to this, that's a bad word. Okay. So Brownies Thunder Beep versus Leeds. And yeah, but that one was a particularly interesting one with the keeper doing a big mess. Yeah, so those are the reactions we got off social media, Martin. I mean, I'll go through the shortlist in a second, our 10 that we picked, but you've got the shortlist in front of you, Martin. Any particular that kind of broke your heart missing out on the shortlist?
I think there's a few that you could make a really good claim for. And there's actually a few that the club missed off their video as well, that I think should have been there. Like the one early on in the season, Mundell's against Portsmouth, where Rigg wins a tackle in the midfield.
Caught him on the break. Brilliant.
Because I think that, in a nutshell, kind of summed up how we want to play and what we do at our best, where you're harrying people, you're getting stuck in, switching the play quickly, catching people on the break, and the finish was great. And similarly, Mayenda's early in the season against Sheff Wed, and his finish was beautiful. The left foot one in the first half where he curls around the goalkeeper. But the work that we actually do to press and win the ball back from Sheffield Wednesday before he gets the ball, again, kind of typifies how we approach the season. I think that you could justify that being in there. The Mundell one at Luton in Octoberish time, again, nighttime game. At the time, we thought that was a huge game in terms of pegging where we were for promotion, because Luton had just come down. Obviously, we know what happened to them subsequently, but it was a really tough game. Atmosphere was against us. We stood up and we showed that we could get in. And I think that was another one where we kind of won the ball back in midfield and got them on the break. Mundell curls it in. And then you got Isidore's, the 3 Isidore goals we've missed off the shortlist. His goal against Hull, where he legs it after nutmegging the referee, all the way through. And, yes, he is paced to carry the ball forward and get through past the last defender. But his little touch before he puts it in was sublime. Similar against Borough, where he gets put through and he dummies the goalkeeper. Beautiful. And the one against Leeds as well. High pressure game, big game, ball over from Ballard, takes it, puts it away. So I think there's a few that could consider themselves unlucky if they were things with feelings. But again, it just goes to show the quality of goals that we've scored and the ones we've had to choose from.
Yeah, I remember that one away to Leeds where he completely pinned Ampadu and he didn't stand a chance.
It was one of the rare occasions where he hasn't gone down, where somebody's been on his back. And it just shows he stood up, he stayed up, and he's got the rewards. And hopefully he does that a bit more often going forward.
Yeah. I mean, Johnny, you're hearing all of that, and like you said, like Martin said, the Isidore goals, the Job goal hasn't made the shortlist. Hume's volley against Millwall, but actually, when we're talking about these, it's interesting how much we go at the first half of the season for a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think it speaks volumes to how much better we were on the eye. I think in the first half of the season in general, which obviously lends itself to a discussion like this about the best goals. Some of the ones that Martin was rattling off there, I remember them as if they were happening in front of us in my mind's eye and thinking, God, yeah, you're right. How have we not put that on the short list? But yeah, I think as a team, generally, we were a little bit more aggressive, a little bit higher up the pitch. We were, again, like Martin was saying, the way we were winning the ball back for some of those goals, like the Mayenda at Sheffield Wednesday was a good example. That was something we were doing with regularity. And I think, for, one reason or another, over the second half of the season in particular, we lost a little bit of that. And I think we became a little bit more functional at times, which is possibly the reason why we weren't maybe knocking in 25-yard stunners and Isidore hooking volleys with his wrong foot over his head in the box like he was against Coventry and what have you. But yeah, I think that first half of the season, and as well, them first few, the first month or two when we were winning all those games, the sun was belting down, like everything just looks better, doesn't it? In that kind of game. Whereas when you knocking about in the ice and the piss and rain and the snow and that across the winter, you're not looking at it and thinking, oh God, I just wish I was back there. But yeah, first half of the season was a great time to be a Sunderland fan.
Yeah. Some of the
second half wasn't bad either, mate.
Oh, hey, particularly the end of the second half. I wouldn't mind that back again.
Yeah, completely discounting what happened at the end of the season there, Johnny.
Well, we'll come to that when some of our choices are read out, I think.
Yeah, very true. I mean, Gav, which of the kids that we had to leave off particularly hurt you?
The Isidore versus Hull goal was a tough one to leave off, wasn't it? Because I kind of got down to the last couple where I was thinking, Jesus, how do you pick between some of these? It's so difficult. So it was definitely that one for me, Isidore against Hull. I think just the whole move was fantastic. The way that he seemed to lose control of the ball and then all of a sudden picked up pace, a little drop of the shoulder, does his man, dinks it over the keeper. It's an unbelievable goal. But again, it's one of those because we've just had so many good goals this season that somebody had to miss out. Quite a few had to miss out. And I agree with Martin. I think Isidore can probably feel aggrieved that he doesn't have more goals on this list because he really could have had his own goal of the season competition. But yeah, I mean, even still, the 10 we've got on that short list are all worthy of being on there. So yeah, a little bit tough, but still unbelievable list.
Yeah. Just in case, Martin, because I did kind of touch on this, but without giving too much away, obviously in your choices, but you could hear from the social media comments that it's a very strange one to try and choose this one, isn't it? Because a lot of people were kind of trying to split hairs and go, well, this one was the best technical goal. This one was the best goal because it meant this much and we've celebrated the most and it's got the most emotion around it. So what goes into choosing a goal? Is it the whole package? Do you just look at how good it was technically? Do you just look at the size of the goal and the moment? How do we pick these things?
I think it's a really difficult one. And it's a really difficult one for a number of reasons because, first of all, I go back to using the 101 great goals rule. So 101 great goals. Chris, you'll remember this.
Oh,
Johnny
yes.
and Gav probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. 101 great goals, video that was worn out on our video player when I was a kid. But, 101 great goals, the scoreline wasn't mentioned for any of those goals, right? The context of the game wasn't mentioned in any of those goals. It was just 101 great goals, right? So from that perspective, you're looking at the aesthetic of it, the technique for the individual shot or cross or header or donkey kick, as Ernie Hunt benefited from for the very first goal, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, on that video. So you've got that aspect to it. But I think when you're judging the goal of the season competition for a club like we are doing for Sunderland this season, you've got to bring in some context to the game as well. So in terms of importance, in terms of what it actually led to or meant. And, the reality is we've got, not spoiling anything, we've got Ballard's goal against Coventry on the list. Now, to me, if that wasn't a goal that was scored when it was and meant what it did, it would not make the list because there's so many other goals that technically, even though he did fold himself up quite dramatically and quite impressively.
The flamingo, as Bomber described it, the flamingo.
So, you've kind of got to take the context into it. So it's getting that, those two things, kind of looking at those two things together. Then also, I've kind of gone for things that also kind of reflect how we approach the season, our play. So things that really showed off some of the things that we were good at and best at this season as well. So that's kind of my logic for the goals I've picked. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's kind of the methodology, I guess. I did. What I did this afternoon? I started off with a spreadsheet. I was kind of having all these categories and putting the scores in. And then after 2 or 3, I'm like, this is going to take us a week. So I scrapped that. But the thinking was there, mate.
Yeah. And you went through all of that and then gave us your choices. And then 2 minutes later, I get another message to say, actually, flip those two, please.
I was only swapping a couple of positions. I wasn't changing my selection.
Well, that's it, right? So we'll get into it because the lads have done a top 3 out the shortlist. And let's go through the shortlist. And this is in chronological order. So we've got Chris Rigg against Borough, the 21st of September in a 1-0 win at home. We've got Isidore versus Oxford at home on the 26th of October in a 2-0 win. Isidore versus Coventry at home in a 2-2 draw on the 9th of November. In the same game, we've also got Sirkin against Coventry, 2-2 draw on the 9th of November. Then we've got Dan Neil at Swansea in a 3-2 win where we came from behind on the 14th of December. Then we've got Remain Mundell against Preston at home and the 1-1 draw on the 11th of March. Then we've got Mayenda at Bristol City in a 2-1 defeat on the 18th of April. Then we've got the 3 playoff goals. So we've got Ballard at home against Coventry, and then we've got Mayenda and Watson in the playoff final. Now, I suppose that, as we've said, the 3 playoff goals were mentioned a lot on the social media comments, and as we'll get into it, we'll get into the picks and see where they come out, and we'll do that debate versus how big the goals were versus the technical aspect of the goals. So we'll go into the first one. We'll go back to the end of September, and we've got Borough at home. Big game at the time. I'm just looking. So we had won 4 of the first games, and we'd just been beaten by Plymouth in our first defeat. So we were looking to bounce back against Borough. And then it was Chris Rigg who came up with the winner in this game. And this goal begins with a Sunderland goal kick. Luke O'Nien rolls it to Patterson in the 6-yard box, who knocks it long to the right where Job flicks it on. Mundell picks it up, knocks it wide to Patrick Roberts. Roberts cuts inside, tries to take a shot that is kind of half blocked, rolls in front of the keeper, puts him on his arse. The keeper tries to get the second ball. Then Chris Rigg comes up and knocks it away from the keeper, but it kind of hits off his shin and starts looking like it's going to roll out for a goal kick. But Chris Rigg has the quick thinking and the skill to pull off a back heel in a huge game at a tight angle against Middlesbrough. Now, let's start with Johnny, because this is your number 3 pick of the season. I mean, again, early in the season, huge game for Chris Rigg. Obviously, he's come into the side. He started off on the bench against Cardiff and then kind of started every game. And then this was his first goal of the season to get him going. But, you know, the quick thinking he had to do and from the angle just looked like it was going to be a goal kick, didn't it? I think it would have been for most players.
Yeah, and this goes basically completely against what Martin was saying with the 101 great goals angle, which is, if you just looked at this goal on its own with no context, I don't think you're putting it anywhere near your top 3 for the season, really. But yeah, like you say, Chris, I mean, the quick thinking and the impudence of the lad to try a wrong foot back heel with the ball.
What? I'm gonna have to get a dictionary out. What was that?
The impudence.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, I'll take your word for it, mate.
Listen, you need a big vocabulary. listen, Gav, I'm from Capricorn, all right? None of the skills are that good. The attitude on the lad, you know what I mean? Like, the ball's running away from goal at such a tight angle with his wrong foot, the back heel, just so confident, like, in the moment. I thought that was just a measure of the lad as a player, really. You know, that's the kind of thing we've almost come to expect from Rigg going forward. Particularly that first half of the season when he was getting a few goals. And the context of the game as well. You know, I know it's a lot of people would say it's nothing approaching a derby and not a proper derby and all that, but it's still a big game against Middlesbrough when we're both in the same league, in front of the Sky cameras. And it proved to be a crucial goal as well. You know, it was a tight game. There wasn't many chances. So I just thought all of that combined for Rigg to do that at such a young age, be able to pull that out in the middle of an important league game, just on instinct. I thought that was brilliant. Like, and I think it was one of my favourite home performances of the season. Actually, I know we 4-0 Sheffield Wednesday, and we've had some other great moments, but I thought that overall was a brilliant, gritty Sunderland performance, and Rigg was the little sprinkling of quality on top, which just made it all the sweeter and took the 3 points for us and not them 6-fingered buggers.
I'm going to have to explain that to my lad now. Cheers, Johnny. Thank you very much.
It's just all the small.
It's just education, isn't it? It's education.
Well, that's it.
He's learned new words. Some he should know, some he shouldn't.
I tell you what, if you ever take him to a Borough away game, you'll learn some new words. Trust us.
I tell you what, I got some messages off of other parents when I took him to his first away game the day after. He went into school with a completely new vocabulary the next day. That's for sure. But Gav, I mean, I'm pretty sure, off the top of my head, he turned 17 last summer. And then he rocks up in the fifth game of the season or something and does this. I mean, pretty amazing, really, when you think about it like that.
He got loads, if you remember, he got loads of media attention for this goal because it was, as Johnny said, such a brilliant goal in a high-profile game. It was live on Sky. As you say, I think most people across the footballing spectrum of they've become acquainted with Chris Rigg to a degree now, and if they haven't, they will be next season. But at that stage, he was still relatively unknown. People had been talking about, there's this young lad at Sunderland who's breaking through and stuff, but people didn't really know much about him at the time. And like I say, to come up with a moment of quality like that was unbelievable. I think when me and you were trying to work out the shortlist for this, this was one of the goals that was up for debate, but wasn't really in my mind. And the reason was because I think it's just so unique. And if you look at all of the goals we've scored this season, in terms of patterns of play and stuff, there's a lot of similarities between the sort of counter-attacking goals and things like that. With this one, it was just a sublime piece of innovative, creative play. The type of skill that not many players can do, never mind a 16 and 17-year-old. So, unbelievable goal. And it really did announce Chris Rigg as a first-team player, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, Martin, just for a start, 101 goals, by the way. I'm sure I've still got that in a box with Danny Baker's Fabulous World of Freak Football somewhere, the video of them. Probably, well, I know the second one's on YouTube, but I haven't actually checked the first one. And actually, I'm going to put a request in. We need the intro and maybe at some point in here, we need a version of The Life of Riley. Because, that is just kind of every goal of the month and goal exactly. But yeah, Chris Rigg, Martin, I mean, fantastic goal as Johnny and Gav have said, but do you think actually later on in the season, maybe the second half of the season, he maybe stopped getting into some of these positions?
Oh, look, potentially. And, I think a few of these goals that we'll talk about, I think are a direct result of that almost like naivety that young players have. And I think this was a perfect example of Rigg playing like he's playing in the park with his mates. And, whether he even tries that later on in the season, I don't know. Because it was that instinctive thing where you're having fun, enjoying it. And I completely expected him, when you're watching it live, expecting him to just bring it back on his left foot and try to cut back to get the ball back into the box. And he surprised everybody. So I think, yeah, look, who knows if he would, I think he hopefully would still try those sort of things. But I think he's got a lot of goals to him, and he hasn't actually scored that many goals for us. And I think as he gets older, if he can get into those goal-scoring positions, he's actually got quite a good goal-scoring instinct. And I would hope that as he progresses in his career, he can kind of add a few more to his game, because if he can add some goals to his game as well as everything else over the next few years, he's going to be dynamite.
Yeah, that's it. And you just have to kind of remember his age all the time when you see him play. But so that first goal, Rigg against Middlesbrough, 21st of September, that is Johnny's third choice. Now, the next one didn't get anybody's choice or anybody's pick in their top three. It was Isidore versus Oxford, 26th of October at home. So we were 1-0 up through Dan Neil after 16 minutes. And then just after the hour, Oxford looked to break, but Trey Hume steps in to intercept a pass. And then he plays a first-time pass into Dan Neil. And this to me was, when people listen I'll let people listen to the player of the season pod. But Dan Neil receives the ball and turns 180 degrees with one touch. And then with his second touch, he just kills it dead and then loops the ball over the top right into Isidore's path, who meets it on the volley, and it goes in off the far post. I mean, Johnny, I just think this is an absolutely ridiculous goal all around. The whole package. I mean, people focus on the Isidore finish, which is unbelievable in itself to take our first time, but Dan Neil's pass was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. It really reminded us, actually, of back in the 13-14 season, during the Great Escape.
Come on, Johnny. I can't remember yesterday.
But I think it was West Brom at home, and I think it was Seb Larsson chipped one over the defence, and Barini ran onto it and smashed it on the volley inside the box.
I do remember that, actually.
And I remember at the time, like, just absolutely gushing over that goal. And this Isidore one, like I say, really reminds us of that. So it was bloody close to getting in my top three. I will be honest, because it was a brilliant goal. And like you say, it's right to credit Dan Neil as well for the pass and the touch beforehand as well. Like a real linking of 2 or 3 bits of quality play from a couple of players there into a great goal. And like I say, I mean, really unlucky for Isidore that somehow that's not making people's top threes. Like it does just show you the quality of goals all around that something like that isn't getting in. But yeah, brilliant goal. And I think possibly eroded in people's memories slightly because the whole game was quite easy and quite safe, really. It was a very comfortable 2-0 win. There wasn't anything to stand out about it, which maybe hurts him a bit. But yeah, great goal.
Well, you say comfortable 2-0 win. We didn't have too many of these, Martin. But I mean, I think as Johnny touched on, you watch this goal. It's potentially got the pass of the season by Dan Neil in there, and the fact that it hasn't made anybody's top three is just pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, it is. It was a beautiful goal, and I think the technique that he showed he just kind of guided the ball on the volley, didn't he? And I think, if that smashes into the top corner from the same pass, then it probably does register a bit higher. But I think in terms of technique, it was beautiful. In terms of the visual appeal of it, the aesthetic of it, it was nice. But I think again, it was kind of, that finish, it kind of was symptomatic of the game where it was just comfortable. It looked easy, and he shouldn't be marked down for making a beautiful goal like that look effortless and easy. But it is. But look, you kind of looking at where it is on the list, and you've got to put things in different places. And, even with the other goal, he has managed to get into the top 10. I think the other goal was better. So, as I say, Isidore could quite rightly you could have had 5 or 6 of his goals alone in that shortlist, and you can make a strong argument for each of them. So, look, great goal, beautiful pass by Dan Neil. I think you're absolutely right in terms of that being a contender for pass of the season because it was beautiful. Great controlled finish, beautifully cushioned into the bottom corner on the volley. Fabulous technique, great goal. And, that sort of thing shows the potential of Isidore. I think, in the second half of the season, he probably wasn't firing as much as he was in the first half of the season. But you've got to remember, he's still a young lad himself. He's still a young player. And the quality that he showed, certainly in the first half of the season with the goals that he scored. And, by the way, he could have had another on the shortlist if that one at Derby had been allowed. So, there's another one there. He got chalked out. That could have been on goal of the season. So, look, I think what's been great looking at these goals again is just that reminder of the quality that Isidore has because, again, that recency bias, it's all been my end over the last 3 months. But Isidore has got a boatload of talent.
I mean, just quickly, Martin, on that about Isidore reminding us, because this kind of shortlist and our choices were very top heavy with Isidore, and everybody's talking about his worldies. But they're all in that first half of the season, and I think this is a really good example because Dan Neil picks up the ball, kills the ball dead. As soon as he turns, Isidore's on his bike and he's round the back and he's making a run in the channels like this. And again, a bit like talking about the Chris Rigg thing, do you think Isidore almost stopped making these runs at some point during the season?
I think he did, and I think there's probably a couple of factors that resulted in that. I think the Burnley penalty misses affected him confidence-wise. I don't think he quite had the same sort of swagger and confidence after that as he did beforehand. And he comes into the club as the big star sign for striker, and he had that swagger about him early on in the season. I think that goal, again, is scored by somebody who has that air of confidence and that swagger about the play. But also, I think this kind of team shape changed a little bit, and I think that's potentially as a result of people like Mundell being out injured and Watson being out injured at the same time. So we actually didn't have the width and the counter-attacking ability that we had prior to those getting injured. So I think the shape of the team changed a little bit, and we became a little easier to defend against. And often Isidore was quite isolated. And then you had the whole thing with bringing Mayenda into the team, him forcing his way into the team, trying 4-4-2, things like that. And things changed a little bit. But I think when you look at how we were at our best during the course of last season, I think it was in that period in the first half of the season where Isidore was playing up front by himself. You had Rigg, Bellingham, Mundell one side, Roberts the other, and Dan Neil anchoring the midfield. And I think really we played our best football and had our best spell of form and got the best out of Isidore when we were kind of set up like that.
Yep. And, as I said in the shortlist, we'll go on to the third goal in the list. And unsurprisingly, it's Isidore again. This is the Coventry game at home, the 2-2 draw, 9th of November. And this is the opening goal of the game in the 17th minute. So it begins with Dennis Serkin. He plays it wide to Mundell, who gets on his bike, plays a 1-2 with Dan Neil. And then that gets Mundell in down the left. So he can swing the ball in with his left foot, and it's swinging away from goal. And Isidore's kind of running away from goal at the same time to meet the ball. And then he meets the ball with his left foot and loops the ball over the top of the goalkeeper into the far corner. And Johnny, if you watch this goal back, it was fun watching all of these goals, especially when you know how the season ends up. It's much better when you watch it like that. But if you watch this goal back, if you watch Chris Rigg in the penalty box, when he watches the ball, he actually puts his hands on his head and he's looking around in almost disbelief that Isidore found the back of the net from the position he met the ball.
Yeah, that's basically what I was doing in the stands watching it as well. I couldn't believe it. A deserved reaction to that goal, to be fair, from Rigg, because that's one of those goals I think where just as aesthetically and the way it looks when it goes in, when you see it real time, you are a bit just like, wow, how has he done that? How has the ball gone from where it was to where it's ended up in one touch? The reason that I didn't end up picking this goal is, and this is going to sound probably ridiculously harsh really to Isidore, he definitely didn't know where that ball was going when he swung.
Not a chance.
Don't get us wrong. I'm not saying that it wasn't a great finish, right? But he's done what any good striker should do in that situation, or any great finisher, I should say, is he's seen the ball coming. He's thought, I need to try and knock this over the keeper and into the far side. And so that's what he's trying to do. And obviously, brilliant goal and outrageous bit of technique in the end. I just think he's not picked out that top corner where the ball's gone.
Oh,
you know
give
what
I mean? I tell you what, I'm not having that.
I thought that might ruffle a couple of feathers. It's just, look, like I say, take nothing away from it, right? Because it was a brilliant goal. I just think, for me, it lacks that element of premeditation, which I tend to look for when I'm looking at goals of the season. Which, that's just me. That's just personal preference. But that said, outrageous goal. And whether he's meant it or not, and he'll say he has 100%, it's ended up a fantastic goal. And it's just a shame it didn't end up with 3 points on the day, but because that goal probably would have deserved to win the game. But great bit of technique.
I'll come to Gavin in a minute because he's been very interested to listen into this debate. But go on, Martin, convinces that Johnny's wrong.
Well, Johnny's wrong.
Done.
How about that? It's a world class finish, and I think when you're a striker, you've got to know where you are in relation to the goal, and a lot of strikers might try that in terms of guiding the ball to the back post from that position. But if you don't know exactly where you're orientated in the penalty box, that can go towards the corner flag and go over the bar and go anywhere. He knows exactly what he's doing in that situation. He's made the run. He's had a glance. Ball comes in and he loops it brilliantly. Absolutely brilliantly. And he absolutely meant that to get that into the far, 100%. Because he's excellent. In terms of a striker, I don't think he's the best sort of, we've talked about before, haven't we, in terms of a great goal scorer versus scorer of great goals. He's not a great goal scorer in terms of being like Kevin Phillips. Well, actually, in terms Phillips used to score some spectacular goals, but he's also on the spot, getting the rebounds in, tapping in from 6 yards, all that sort of stuff, which of course made him a very complete striker. But Isidore's got that ability to finish obscenely sometimes. And that to me was an absolutely beautiful finish. It didn't make my top 3, but it was an absolutely beautiful finish. And I think all like a great goal.
Well, Gav's been sitting there grinning like a Cheshire cat and listening very intently because this is your goal of the season, your number one pick, Gav.
Oof. It is. It's of the list of 3 I came up with. There were 2 which I would say were genuinely world class goals, and this was one of them. And it was neck and neck between this and one other goal. But for me, this was the one when I watched the goals back that gave me the most pleasure. Where I was like, oh, what a goal! And I remember that feeling in the ground at the time. It was an absolutely ridiculous goal. And as Martin said, I agree with pretty much everything he said there with regards to his position and his natural instinct to guide the ball where he did. We can go into the ins and outs of what kind of striker Isidore is, how much of his finishing ability is natural as opposed to, things which just come from the top of his head and all the rest of it. We're talking about this goal alone, and I just think this was such a special goal, an unbelievable goal that I can't remember many better in my life as a Sunderland fan than this goal. That's how good it was. I think it was just ridiculous. And every time you watch it back, I still don't understand how he's done it. Like that because he only has a split second to think about what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And he puts the ball into a place as well. It's not just the fact that he's nowhere near in a shooting position, really, is he? Like, naturally, most strikers in that position aren't going to take the shot on. But he does it and then guides it over the keeper's head. And it's just such a brilliant goal. Like I say, I can't remember many, probably in the last 30-odd years, that are as good as that.
Wow.
But again, we're talking about, it's all subjective. In my opinion, that's the best goal we scored this season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Go on, Martin.
So we know Gav's employing the 101 great goal method of deciding his top 3 now.
Well,
we know Johnny's not.
You'll be surprised. We need to get on and get through them. Go on, Gav.
Can I just say as well, and I know we'll probably get onto it, but it wasn't the only truly special goal from that game. So maybe that's why it stands out a bit more. But what a goal. Just what a goal. Like I keep saying, I don't think we've scored many better than that in my time as a fan.
Well, that's a perfect segue into number 4 in the shortlist, which was in the same game, Coventry at home, 2-2 on the 9th of November. This one was Dennis Serkin. So Isidore, as we said, put us ahead after 17 minutes. And then this goal was just after the half hour. Trey Hume actually starts this with a trademark tackle that sees the ball go to the opposite side of the pitch. It was almost like a crossfield pass, the way that Trey Hume tackles. Dennis Serkin's the first to read it. He sprints out to meet it, plays a quick 1-2 with Mundle, and then he gets the ball. After this 1-2 with Mundle, he picks it up around 10 yards inside his own half. And there's about 6 Coventry players chasing him at this point. But he drives with the ball until he's around 10 yards outside of the box and then smashes it from 25 yards and beats the keeper at his near post. I mean, potentially ask questions the keeper when that happens. But Johnny, I think Gav mentioned it in a previous podcast, maybe the Player of the Year one. But I'm not sure on his day and if he can be fully fit for a period of time. There's many better fullbacks in the Championship.
There's certainly not many fullbacks in the Championship could score that goal. I think that was a moment of real quality from Serkin, and as well, I think it was Isidore he had actually running up alongside him, offering an option for a pass. He was about to kind of break beyond the last defender, and the easy option there for Serkin would have been to play the ball, because obviously he's a defender. You've got an attacker coming up with you. If he had played the ball, it would have basically been an open goal, I think. So to have all that in the back of your mind and still have the confidence to take the shot on from distance like Serkin did, I think is already commendable. And to pull it off with such a good finish. And yes, you can maybe ask a question or two of the goalkeeper, but he certainly got his foot through it, didn't he, Serkin? He wasn't leaving any chance of that not reaching the net. And it flew past the keeper, and a great moment for Serkin as well, who I think had started the season exceptionally. All his numbers, his stats, and just the eye test of watching him, he was flying, wasn't he? So it was nice to see him get like a nice, what should have been a little crowning moment. Again, obviously we didn't hold on for the 3 points in the end, but Take nothing away from the strike because it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant, but it got no nominations from anybody in their top three. So I'm going to go on the Martin.
It's number 4 in my list.
Oh, you can't be having that.
It was pretty close for me as well, to be honest. Like the power on that. I mean, you said there, Johnny, the keeper could maybe have done better. I think he would have snapped his wrist if he tried to put his hand on that, because it was. That must be the hardest anyone. Of all the goals we scored this season, that must be the most powerful shot of them all.
You'd be asking questions, though. If Patterson let that in, you'd be asking questions, though, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, you do. I think it's one of those where you go, a better goalkeeper saves it.
Yeah.
Position would have ended up in. He would have ended up in the back of the net with the ball if he tried to anywhere near it. Like,
it would have been a spectacular save if he'd managed to get it, though. So you're looking at that. Yeah, a great goalkeeper saves that, but it would be a hell of a save to save it.
Yeah,
I don't know. From that far out, I always remember Roy Keane's training ground thing what he did with the keepers when one of his keepers got beat from 35 yards or something for a free kick, and he went, right, anybody can take shots at us. I'll give you £1,000 for every time someone scores, or you give me £100 for every time someone misses, and I'll go in goal from 35 yards, and if you beat us, and nobody scored. And his point was no keeper should get beat when you've got that much time to see where the ball's coming from.
Yeah. I don't think he had that much time though, because he hit so fast.
That's it.
Yeah, no, a brilliant goal. I'm not knocking the goal. I just think if that was Patterson, we'd be asking questions. But let's move on to the next one, because this is number 5, and this is another one that was struck with some power. This is Dan Neil against Swansea, 3-2 win on the 14th of December. We're 2-0 down after 17 minutes. Ballard got one back just after the half hour, and then with around 15 minutes left on the clock, we're 2-1 down. Swansea have possession, and Mayenda and Job press and win the ball back. Job gets it into Dan Neil's feet, around 10 yards inside the Swansea half, and then he's off. He drives forward, and then he's put under a bit of pressure, but he drives till about 25 yards out and smashes the ball, which ends up on the hitting the underside of the bar and going into the net and puts us on level terms, and then we go on and win it. And Gav, I'll come to you first on this one. But I almost think Dan Neil should do this a little bit more, but that was almost kind of the Job role in the team when he drives forward with the ball. But again, we talked about Dan Neil's passing earlier on, and this is completely different from Dan Neil driving with the ball and smashing it in the back of the net from 25 yards.
I'd actually forgotten how good the goal was until I watched the video of it back. Unbelievable goal. He carries the ball, 15, 20 yards. And then we talk about power on the strike. Bang, top corner. Keeper's got no chance. An absolutely unbelievable goal. Another one. But like I say, I think it kind of got lost in my mind, that one, because if you remember, that game was topsy-turvy. Obviously, we were 2-0 down, go back to 3-2. I think every goal had its own sort of... all of them were good goals in their own right. Like even that Job one where he scrambles it in, it is still a good goal. But yeah, just a ridiculous finish, and the type of goal I think he's capable of, but we don't see enough from Dan Neil. I think he's had that in his locker for years, but he tends to I don't think he's done it so much this season, but last season he would pick the ball up in them positions, and every time I was like, well, that's gone over the bar. But this year he seems to have scaled it back a bit, but then scored a great goal. So I just hope he keeps on scoring goals like that. More of an all-action midfielder than he maybe shows at times.
Well, I think Martin's got the similar feeling, because this was Martin's goal of the season. And yeah, I mean, as Gav said, he forgot how good the goal was, but it didn't even make his top 3.
I think in terms of, again, you're kind of looking at the different criteria, if you like. So in terms of...
Here's the spreadsheet. Here's the secret to the spreadsheet coming up.
Spreadsheet, right? So Swansea City away, right? We've started the season off great. We're top of the league. At this point, we play Swansea away. We had won 1-8. So we come into that lull. And I think, you look at the run of results that we'd had. So after we'd beaten Luton away and Oxford at home, where Isidore scored that lovely goal, we'd drawn away at QPR, we'd drawn away at Preston, we'd drawn home to Coventry, the game that we talked about with Isidore and Serkin scoring the 2 goals. We'd drawn away last minute to Millwall. We'd drawn home to West Brom 0-0. We got beat away at Sheffield United 1-0. We'd managed to beat Stoke 2-1 at home in the last couple of minutes through a Tommy Watson goal. And then Bristol City at home in the midweek before this, we rescue a point 1-1 with Patrick Roberts scoring deep into injury time. You're 2-0 down in this game away at Swansea. And after that run of form, you kind of going, was this all just a great run at the start of the season? It's all going to turn to crap. And Ballard obviously gets a goal back to make it 2-1 in the first half. But I think in the context of all of that, for Dan Neil to step up and score this goal as a captain, I think that is a kind of a turning point in our form, because I think if we don't score this goal here, and the goal itself is great, Bellingham and Mayenda press and win the ball back. They had possession, win the ball back in the Swansea half, give it Daniel, surges forward, drives forward, holds off a defender, powers in the top corner. But he really stepped up and took responsibility there to get the team back on. Obviously, we go on to win the game. I reckon in terms of the context of the season, if we get beaten that game, then potentially what happens subsequently doesn't happen. So I think in terms of aesthetically beautiful, in terms of how much it meant for the course of the season, I think that was the moment that changed the course of the season, because we go on to win that game. And all of a sudden we start, we'd scored the late equaliser against Bristol City with Roberts a few days before. So we had this little thing of sort of going to the end. We can get an equaliser, get a result. We did it again here. And that then was a feature throughout the second half of the season, where we kept going till the end and scoring goals, getting points, and it goes all the way through. So I reckon if Dan Neil doesn't step up and score that goal, which individually a beautiful goal if you take it on face value by itself anyway, but I reckon if that doesn't happen, you question whatever happens after that, because, if you go back to that time, Labris is under a bit of scrutiny because the results have fallen off. And if you go 1 win in 9, 1 win in 10 after that, who knows what happens? So I just think if you're looking at the whole package, I just think that is the most important goal and best goal of the season.
There you go. I mean, just very quickly, Johnny, because he scored that one against Swansea, and his only other goal was the one at Middlesbrough, which was another big goal. But should Dan Neil be doing a bit more of this type of thing? Obviously not smashing in from 25 yards. Get on the score sheet.
Yeah, I was going to say, should feels a little hard for. He should just replicate goal of the season contenders every week, but no, I do take your point. I think it is something that I've also thought as well. It would be nice to see him add that to his game, because he has shown he's got it. He's got that ability in there. I mean, Gav was saying last season, he'd often line them up and they'd fly over the bar. So maybe a bit less of that. But even back in the League One days, I think it might have been a sort of AFL trophy game or something, but it was against Lincoln, I think. And I remember Dan Neil scored a beauty from sort of 22, 23 yards that game as well. And that was when he was really just breaking into the team for the first time, I think. And so we know he can do it, and we know he's been able to do it for a while. So I would like to see a bit more of it from him. But yeah, maybe not demanding that our captain replicate that kind of goal against Swansea too often. And I've got to say, Martin, as well, you were very persuasive there. You have got us maybe teetering on all your description of the narrative around it and the context. I'm sat there thinking, have I got this a bit wrong here?
Well, I'd wiped all memories of playing Lincoln City in the league from my memory. So thanks for that, Johnny.
I can't afford the therapy it would need to wipe it from mine.
But let's stick with you, Johnny, for the next one, because we go to number 6, which is Remain Mundell against Preston at home, 1-1 on the 11th of March. And this was your number 2 choice. We went behind to a goal from Jakobsen just after the hour, and then it was getting to the end and it was getting a bit scrappy, and the fans were getting a bit tetchy, I think, and it got to about 86 minutes. Patrick Roberts did a cross from the right-hand side. It was half cleared. It went to Mundell on the left, and he took 3 touches to get half a yard. And then his 4th touch curled it into the far top corner, in fact, from 20 yards. Now, I remember thinking back, Johnny, I mean, this felt like the type of goal that Kevin Phillips and Alan Johnston used to score back in the day when they used to bend it into those far corners. I mean, and you've got this as your second choice for goal of the season.
Yeah, it was just a sublime bit of technique, I think, from Mundle. That is a genuinely top-class finish. I know, obviously, it's only in the Championship and you get maybe that extra little bit of time and space on the ball compared to the very top level. But that aside, just that finish alone is absolutely brilliant. Not the biggest game of the season or anything, but still, an important moment in the game, sort of 90th minute or so, right at the death. And that had been a tough old game as well. I mean, Preston were, they were dirty both times we played them, I think, and a lot of time wasting. So it felt very, very sweet for us to strike so late on to rescue the game. And nowhere near to the size of the Swansea game like Martin was talking about, but I do think that was an important moment because, like you say, the fans were getting a bit tetchy and a bit restless, and understandably so during the game because we hadn't been great. But I think for us to have scored then such a brilliant goal right at the end, to have taken the point, it does. Like, everyone just leaves the stadium feeling that bit happier. Everyone who's watching it at home is everyone's thinking about the goal. We're not thinking about how rubbish we were for the first 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. Everything turns to the goal because it was just that good. No goalkeeper saving that, really. It was so perfectly placed, and I just think, like, for me, I've tried to prioritize goals, like I say, where I think it was much more intentional. I think Mundle, in his mind's eye, as he shaped up to hit that, was visualising the exact path the ball went on into the net. And I think that's, it's a measure of the quality of the player because it was a brilliant finish. And I really enjoyed it, and it's a goal I don't get sick of looking back at.
And Martin, we've had your number one choice, which is Dan Neil, and this was number 3 on your list.
Well, it was 2 at one stage this afternoon, wasn't it?
After you flip-flopping, yeah, it ended up at number 3, yeah.
Yes, it was number 2 at some stage of my thinking, but yeah, number 3. And yeah, completely agree with Johnny in terms of it being a aesthetically pleasing goal. It was beautiful. I think it was a reminder of the quality that Romain Mundle has. He'd been out injured for a spell. He'd only recently come back into the team. He hadn't quite sort of hit his straps, as I say. But he came on and scored this goal. But the best thing about this goal, apart from obviously it going in and it being a beautiful strike, was, as Johnny said, Preston had been a bit dead, but it followed that spell where that you had players falling down left, right, and centre with different injuries, and the game must have been stopped for about 10 minutes or so, hadn't it? There was injury time being added on. Then Preston had 12 players on the pitch at one stage, and had to, so it turned into complete chaos. And amid that chaos, even when you watch the replay back, you've got a Preston player standing on the side of the pitch waiting to come back on. So this was immediately after all that chaos had happened, the game restarts, and Mundle pulls out the bag. And I think, Mundle has such a lot of that type of goal in his locker. Now, it's not a one-off, it's not an accident. He can do that beautifully. And we saw it earlier in the season. And look, we didn't see it a great deal in the second half of the season, apart from on this occasion, because he had such a trouble with injury. But in terms of a beautiful goal, absolutely superb.
Yeah. And Gav, Martin's spreadsheet said number 3, but the spreadsheet said no for you, and it wasn't in your top 3.
Yeah, but I can't argue with any of that. It was brilliant. One of only 2 goals of ours which won Goal of the Month this season as well. Another which we're yet to talk about will have been one of the others. But yeah, just a brilliant goal it was a crap game. Preston time wasted loads. We just needed that bit of individual quality to rescue us, and he came up with it. But a brilliant finish. And I had a great angle of it from my seat in the ground because I'm in the southwest corner. That was scored at the other end of the pitch, but I was right behind the shot. And when you watch it back, it's like the keeper's dive's like a sympathy dive, isn't it? It's like I might as well try, but I'm getting nowhere near it. And just an outstanding goal. And Mundle, as Martin said, has got that in his locker. I think we're going to see more of that from him in the Premier League. And it's almost a bit like that Jack Clark thing, where Clark used to do a similar sort of thing. He would cut inside. I always remember you saying, Chris, it was like the lad at school who had one trick and you just couldn't stop him from doing it. It's a bit like that, isn't it, with Mundle? He's just, you know what he's going to do. You know he's going to try and fashion a shot away, and there's nothing you can do about it. into a much greater degree because I'm talking about one of the best players in the world at the minute. But Yamal at Barcelona does that as well. He just scores the same type of goal time after time, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. And that's quite a skill in itself, because in all the preparation for a game, and when they're talking to the fullbacks and like, right, Romain Mundo's going to be playing on the left. Don't let him get on his right foot. Makes no difference. You're not doing out about that. So yeah, great goal.
Yeah, it's like sensible world of soccer where you can only score two types of goals, and that's it. But Gav, will stick with you because we're moving on to number 7, which is Mayenda at Bristol City in a 2-1 defeat, 18th of April. Where Trey Hume was sent off after 7 minutes and we were under the cosh, and we were kind of pinned in. Bristol City were passing it about without much joy on the edge of the box, and then a loose pass falls to the feet of Mayenda, who's standing on the edge of the D of our penalty area, helping out with the defending. And once he gets the ball, he just starts running. He does a bit of a Forrest Gump and just keeps on going. 2 Bristol City players slide in on a midway inside our half before he finds himself 3 against 1 in their half. Starts to come inside and they get scared to touch him when he gets into the box. Then he gets his left foot shot off and puts it into the corner and scores. And this was your number 2 choice, Gav.
Yeah, and as I said before, I think we scored 2 world-class goals that I whittled it down to, and this was the other one. Unbelievable, just unbelievable. And I mean, he's the only player I can think of who can score that goal. Like he's so determined to get the finish off as well at the end of it. Like, we know he can do the bit where he holds the ball and he battles to win the ball back and stuff. But it's the composure at the other end, the finish. Genuinely a world-class goal. This one won April's goal of the month for the championship. And it was very, very close for me between the Isidore Coventry goal and this one. And the reason I plumbed for the Isidore one was just because I think in terms of individual brilliance, there was a little bit more about that one. But I mean, it's so difficult to choose between them. Like, this one was outstanding. And again, this has become his trademark, hasn't it? I've just talked about Mundo's trademark. Mayenda's trademark's quickly becoming picking the ball up 50, 60 yards from goal, even further back with this one. He was in his own half and managing to cause absolute mayhem. But I think in years to come, it's a shame it never meant out, really. That's the only other thing. When Martin was talking about the context of the goals and what they mean and stuff, it was a pretty pointless game. We'd already knew we were finishing 4th. Other than the fact we were potentially playing against a team we might play in the playoffs. It meant very little, and the Hume red card spoiled the game as a contest, but it doesn't take away from how good this goal was. And I think it'll be one of those which features on YouTube compilations for years and years to come when we're looking back at some of the great players we've had at Sunderland over the years and the great seasons we've had. So yeah, just gets in at 2 for me.
Yeah, and I'll quickly let you carry on actually into the next one, Gav, because we complete your top 3 because we had Isidore against Coventry, the Mayenda one at Bristol City, and then your number 3 choice was 8th on our list, which is Dan Ballard against Coventry. I'm not even going to go through that because everyone knows what the goal was, but it was your number 3 choice. Now, was this one of them technical versus how big it was?
Both. Ball-in's unbelievable. The header is unbelievable. It's in the last second of the game to send us to Wembley. Like, I could have put this higher. You'll not see a better header of a ball than that, I don't think. He folds in half. Like, when you watch it in real time, you're like, oh, it's hit him on the back. Yeah, it hasn't. He's almost bent in. He's folded like a deck chair to head the ball and put it in the top corner off the bar as well, by the way. That's another element. But the ball in by Enzo Lefebvre.
That's another tick against the goal of the season, isn't it? It has to, like Tony Yeboah. Those volleys wouldn't have been as good if they didn't go off the bar, wouldn't it?
That's it. But the ball in from Lefebvre placing the ball down and kissing it before he takes it. Just so much. It's not just about the finish, is it? It's the ball in, it's the moment, it's the timing of it, and then the finish in off the bar to send us to Wembley. I would imagine if we put this out for tender, a lot of people would have this top, actually. So I don't really need to say much else about that. I'm looking at it and thinking maybe I could have put this above the Mayenda one, but I've got to stick to me choices, and Ballard, gets in a 3rd place.
Yeah. Well, let's move on quickly because the next one is obviously the first goal in the final, which was Mayenda. So the number 9 on our list was Mayenda against Sheffield United. I think everyone knows about that goal, but it didn't get onto any of your top 3s. So I'm going to move on to number 10, which is Tommy Watson. And again, we're going to get into this debate, technical versus, how big the goal was, or both, as Gav was arguing about Dan Ballard. Come to you first, Johnny, because this is your goal of the season.
It's the goal I've enjoyed most watching in any Sunderland game. From
okay, that's an interesting start.
Ever. So it's almost completely biased, but I cannot not put that in my list. And if it's going in, it's got to be number one. But beyond that, trying to look at it even a tiny bit objectively, 95th minute at Wembley for a lad who's had a bit of stick, already guaranteed his leave and going to Brighton. It's his last kick ever in a Sunderland top. It's 1-1 in the playoff final to get us back to the Premier League. And he's got the presence of mind when he picks that ball up. He picks the ball up and runs straight at goal, which is incredibly impressive, great desire. But to have the presence of mind and the composure and the balls to go, do you know what? I'm not just going to lash my foot through it like 90% of footballers would. The last minute you think, I hit it, it's going to stay hit. No. He thinks, right, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I back myself. I've got the quality. I'm going to bend this round the defenders. I mean, he starts at probably a good 5 yards outside the post, really. If it hadn't curved, it would have made him look a bit foolish. But he's just, span his boot round it. When you watch it in slow motion as well, the weight just swerves past the keeper's hand and it nestles in the side netting, which shows you how right he got it in terms of the precision and the aim. To do all that in the minute that he did, on the stage that he did, with all of the stuff surrounding him and the game and the club and everything, I just think that was phenomenal. And the scenes it sparked, being in Wembley to see it and celebrate, I could talk about that goal all day long, but I'm going to shut up now and just say
you can't.
I absolutely loved it, so it's mine for one.
And that's your top three complete. So you've got Watson as your number one, you've got Mundell as your number two, and you've got Chris Rigg as your number three. And this also completes Martin's top three because this is his second choice behind Dan Neil, number one, and ahead of Mundell, number three. But, where do you line on that big goal versus technical? I mean, are you a bit like Gav on the Ballard goal?
Well, I actually think if you take this goal in isolation, if you remove all of the context around it and everything, technically this is brilliant because he has got to have the composure and the skill. He's got to get that perfect. Like, if he doesn't get that perfect, it doesn't go in. The keeper saves it or it goes wide. There's only a millimetre of space to get it through. It's a millimetre either way and it doesn't go in. So in terms of actual perfection, as an individual standalone strike of the ball, the way he guided it in, brilliant. You put in, the context of the game and all that sort of stuff, which we all know about, and how important it was and all that sort of thing. So that obviously does come into that decision as well. But I just think in terms of technique married up with the importance of it, I think it's got to. I was kind of when I started going through the goals, I was like, I'm not going to pick any of the playoff goals. It's far too obvious. It's too easy to do that. But when you kind of consider it, you go, the goals that we did score in the playoffs, plus you wrap around some meaning to it, technique-wise, that is such a good goal that I think it deserves to be placed. Again, I was flipping between him and Mundell for 2 and 3. Dan Neil was always my number one for goal of the season. But yeah, I think Watson's goal at Wembley deserves to be spoken about and obviously be remembered for a long time, but in terms of goal of the season, I think it deserves to be up there.
Yeah, spreadsheet says yes. But once again, Gav, spreadsheet said no, this wasn't on your top three, which I was surprised at, if I've got to admit.
I don't know, really. It's like some of these are how do you really try and decide a three-man shortlist out of all that? It is tough, but I think in terms of what it meant and felt like, this sounds really strange, but bear with us. I felt more when Ballard scored than Watson did. I was at both games. I was in the crowd for both games. I absolutely lost my mind when Ballard scored. Yet I didn't with the Watson one. Obviously, I celebrated it and went mental like everyone did in the ground. But I just felt more from the Ballard goal. It almost... I was so confident all day at Wembley that I was turning to my mate and my dad and that and saying, we're going to win this in normal time. these are shite. I think I said that about 100 times. Just kept repeating myself, hoping it would come true. And it did come true. Whereas with the Ballard one, I just didn't see it coming. I think there was that. But it's so tough. I don't know. I think this one could have been top. It could have been second or third. Like, it was a great goal. I'm not going to argue with anybody who says that, because it was. The technique was brilliant. I actually, if it was just a regular game, like we were playing Portsmouth on a Tuesday night or something, and we'd scored the goals we did in that final, I think the Mayenda one's a better goal because it's a team effort. I think just the build-up is brilliant. Yet I didn't have that on my list either, you know. They're both outstanding goals. It's like picking between your favourite kids, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, you're probably right in terms of those goals, but I think everyone can make arguments about the technical aspects of all of these goals. So that leaves us done in terms of those top three picks. And just for clarity, I'll kind of quickly do what I thought was my top three. I went for Tommy Watson as my goal of the season. My second pick was Dan Neil, and my third pick was Isidore against Coventry. So those
we all got one.
So those were my picks. But yeah, and so that, and just to clarify that the lads, Gav went Isidore as his goal of the season against Coventry. His second pick was Mayenda against Bristol City, and his third was Ballard in the playoffs against Coventry. Martin's was Dan Neil as goal of the season. Tommy Watson is his second pick, and Romain Mundle is his third. And Johnny had Tommy Watson as his goal of the season, Romain Mundle is his second pick, and Chris Rigg has his third. So we had, let me just count up, we had 4 goals that had more than one pick, and we had one that had 3 picks. So Tommy Watson, who had the number 1 picks from me and Johnny, and number 2 from Martin, gets our goal of the season purely on how many times it was picked. The second in our list, based on choices, was Dan Neil against Swansea, because it was number 1 for Martin and number 2 for myself. And the number 3 from our choices is a split between Romain Mundle against Preston, who was Johnny's second pick and Martin's third, and Isidore's against Coventry. But actually, I'm going to put this as number 3 because this got Gav's top choice and my third choice, because Mundle got Martin's third choice. So there you have it.
Yeah, get that up yet. Still haven't won one yet, but we'll take that.
So top 3 again: Tommy Watson number 1, Dan Neil number 2, and Isidore number 3 against Coventry. So those are our top 3. So everyone, please let us know how much you disagree with us, because as we said at the very beginning, there's no right or wrong answer as much as we'll argue the toss, Martin.
Would any of us change our order after having this conversation? We don't need to answer that, but there's a question.
I'll think on that. No.
I'm gonna stay out of that conversation because I literally just made my top 3 as you were doing your last sentence. So,
I'd be tempted to change. I won't lie, but maybe I'm too stuck.
I could be convinced with more than, and even some of the ones we didn't pick as top 3s, I could be convinced somebody could argue the toss, and I might end up agreeing with them. But there you go. Just leaves me to say thank you very much, gents. It's been a pleasure, and I wasn't going to get into arguing or anything because we would have literally been here all day, I think. But I appreciate your time, and thanks again to everyone for listening. We'll have more on the 2024-25 season because we probably can't get enough, and we will of course start looking forward. We're going to have news roundups, and we're going to have all sorts coming up, Gav, haven't we? We've got loads planned.
Yes, we'll be speaking to Ian Murtagh tomorrow morning about a host of promotion seasons and squads. Ian's going to take us through all of Sunderland's promotions to the top flight that he covered, and maybe compare with the modern day, and bit of nostalgia. We love getting Ian on for that sort of stuff, so that should be great. And then we'll see what comes next week. But yeah, hoping to keep the pods flowing throughout the summer. We've got lots to talk about. I mean, since we last recorded a news pod, loads has happened. We've signed Enzo Lefebvre. It looks like Job is actually off to Dortmund, and yeah, there's lots to chat about. So we'll be catching everybody up with all that sort of stuff over the weekend and what have you. And yeah, get subscribed.
And that's it. Speaking of nostalgia, Martin, we'll have another on this week. Another epic on this week. Maybe break our 2.5 hour barrier or something like that. We'll aim for it.
Yeah, we'll having a little troll back through the archives. Obviously, June is an interesting month to find things to talk about in the world of Sunderland, but there are a good few things to have a chat about, and it's great because I think all of us learned something that we didn't know. Andrew's a complete box of knowledge, isn't he? And Kelvin has been at every match since 1879, apparently. So, so no, it's all good fun. So yeah, if you haven't caught up with those, they come out most Mondays, if not Sundays. So yeah, good crack. And yeah, it's just a good excuse to talk Sunderland, isn't it?
Can I just add by that? Obviously, they're a new addition to our lineup, and I've really loved them. Like, Kelvin's great. His shit puns are great. Right up my street. Like, he proper got you on the last one, by the way. That was class. Aye. So I'll let people listen to that and hear it for themselves. But honestly, if you haven't heard any of these pods yet, make sure you do. The On This Week pods are really informative. Kelvin's quirks, I guess, on top of that, he has genuinely been at nearly every game over the last sort of 60 years. So, and he's got some great stories about players from the past that you wouldn't have heard. Nobody else is doing this sort of thing when it comes to Sunderland. So, yeah, listen to one this week. And they drop, I know we put one out early this week, but generally on a Monday. So you can start your week off with one of those, and make sure you listen to those as well. Big recommendation from me. If this was Trustpilot or Google reviews or whatever, I'd give you a 5-star. Because I'm not involved.
You know what? I think it speaks volumes in me, because I edited that podcast and I left that in when Kelvin did it. So, you know, it speaks volumes to my character.
That's it.
Well, that's it, Martin. I love that time of the week when we sit around the campfire, toasting marshmallows, and just let Kelvin just go off. We just say one word, and that's it. We sit back for 15 minutes and just let him tell all these stories. Absolutely brilliant.
It's all good fun.
Yeah, but as we said, we've got loads coming up, almost daily releases, as Gav said, on How We're the Podcast. But from us, bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.